everyone, and welcome to Working with Mrs. Dickey. Today we're going to be describing probability in the form of a fraction. So there's two types of probability. There's experimental probability, which is when we are actually conducting the experiment, spinning the spinner, rolling the dice, pulling the tokens out of a bag. So on the top is the number of times an outcome occurs. So if you're pulling out red tiles, it's how many red tiles you pulled out. And on the bottom is the number of times an experiment is conducted. So let's say we pulled out 4 tiles and we did it 20 times. Our experimental probability would be 4 out of 20. Theoretical probability is looking at what could possibly happen. So if we're looking at the number of possible favorable outcomes versus the number of possible outcomes. So say, for example, we go back and we look at that bag of tiles. Let's pretend that there were 10 tiles in the bag and only 3 of those were red. So we'd have a theoretical probability of 3 out of 10. So let's get into this and apply it. So here we are, we're going to look at the theoretical probability of spinning the spinner. So let's look at the theoretical probability of blue first. So we need to count how many spaces there are on the spinner. So we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spots. So there's 8 possible outcomes, and only one of those is going to be blue. Okay, let's do this again with red. So the possible outcomes hasn't changed. We still have 8, and 3 out of 8 of those would be red. Then we move on to this yellowy orange color. I'm going to call it yellow. And we're going to say there's still only 8 places. 2 of those are yellow. And we got 2 more. Green has 1 out of those 8 spots. And let's just go fancy and call this silver. It also has 1 out of 8 spots. So we can actually see by looking at these fractions that the most likely one is red, and we should also visually look at our spinner and see that it is also red. So these are theoretical probabilities because we are looking at this in theory. If we wanted to do experimental, we would have to decide to spin that spinner. We would have to pick a number, say 10 times, 20 times, do our tallies, and then we'd express everything over that 10 because that's how many times we conducted it. And then we'd express how many times we spun that red on the top, how many times we spun that blue on the top. And we might see that they're similar in proportion to these, or we might find that they are completely different. And that's the lovely fun about probability, is although it looks like red is going to be the winner, it doesn't always happen when you conduct the experiment. Okay, so that's for spinners. Here we go on to dice or number cubes. We should know that there are 6 sides to a dice. If we wanted to look at the probability of spinning or of rolling any number, it's 1 out of 6 because there's only 1 out of 6 sides. But if we wanted to get fancy and we wanted to look at those odd numbers, which we should know are 1, 3, and 5. Those are 3 out of 6 sides, or half. And if we have even, which are 2, 4, and 6, they're also 3 out of 6, or 1 half. And again, these are theoretical. Just because we have a 1 in 6 chance of spinning that or rolling that 3 doesn't mean that we can't roll that dice 10 times and get that 3, 7. It's just the luck of, as they call it, the luck of the draw or the luck of the roll. But these are the theoretical probabilities. Okay, and finally, here's some jelly beans in a jar. So we've got red, blue, green, and yellow jelly beans in that jar. And so now, if we wanted to look at the theoretical, spelling mistake, sorry guys, theoretical probabilities, we could look at, let's say, red. We know that there are 4, and now we got to figure out how many we have. So we have 4 red plus 2 blue plus 7 green plus 5 yellow, which if we add those all together are 18 jelly beans. So red is 4 out of 18, which we could actually reduce more if we wanted to, but you know what, we won't worry about reducing today. Let's just worry about fractions. Let's go blue is 2 out of 18. Green is 7 out of 18. Sorry, green. 5 out of 18. So in your homework today, you're going to be asked to look at theoretical. So that means just look at the numbers, look at the situations, what are the possibilities of getting that choice, and then that experimental. So when we've got to do that experimental, that means you've got to do your best to replicate that situation and actually conduct it. So if they've asked you to, for example, 1B, roll it 30 times, even though there's only an out of 6 probability on a dice, when you're looking at that experimental, you're going to be expressing your fraction over 30 because you have had done that experiment 30 times. Hopefully this helps. As always, if you need help, comment on the assignment below, or please send me an email at p00@78359 @pdsb.net.